Welcome to Unsolved SA, the place where South Africa's darkest truths and crimes are uncovered. Today we'll be looking at the mystery of the 13 unsolved murders that occurred in the city of Port Elizabeth between 2007 to 2009. This is the terrifying story of the Port Elizabeth serial killer, South Africa's forgotten phantom. Between 2007 and 2009, the streets of Gqeberha, then known as Port Elizabeth, became the hunting ground for a cold-blooded killer. At least 13 women were found murdered. They were lured, taken, and left in open fields. The police were certain a serial killer was at work. But here's the chilling part. Almost 2 decades later, the case is still unsolved. The women targeted were between the ages of 25 and 35. Many of them were vulnerable, unemployed, or working as sex workers trying to survive. The killers knew this. He preyed on desperation. One by one, their bodies were discovered on the outskirts of the city, in fields, in bushes, in open, empty land where no one was watching. The victims had one thing in common. They were all brutally murdered, and their killer made no effort to hide what he had done. It's almost as if he wanted to be found, but somehow, he never was. In 2007, the first bodies began to appear. At first, police thought it might be isolated crimes, but soon, the pattern was impossible to ignore. The killer targeted women he could easily manipulate, offering them money or transport. They would disappear only to be found days later, lifeless. By the time investigators connected the dots, there were already multiple victims, and the city of Port Elizabeth realized a killer was walking among them. The South African Police Service launched a task force in order to apprehend the culprit. Witnesses reported a man who cruised certain streets at night approaching women. Some described him as middle-aged with access to a car. DNA samples were collected from the crime scenes. By 2010, police claimed they had made progress. Suspects were questioned. There were even headlines suggesting an arrest had been made. But here's where the story twists. Despite all the noise, no conviction ever stuck. Charges fell apart, evidence was too weak, and the victims' families were left with more questions than answers. So while some believe the case was solved, the truth is very different. More than a decade later, the Port Elizabeth serial killer has never officially been caught. Who was this phantom? Some believed he was a local man who knew the city's streets too well. Others said he might have been a truck driver, using long-distance roads to stalk victims. There were even rumors that he could have been someone with ties to the police, someone who knew how investigations worked. But the most frightening theory of all is that the killer may never have left, that even today, he could be living quietly in Port Elizabeth, a neighbor, a co-worker, an ordinary man hiding in plain sight. South Africa has faced many challenges when it comes to solving serial murders: overstretched police forces, limited forensic resources. In the case of the Port Elizabeth serial killer, many victims came from vulnerable communities, meaning disappearances often went unnoticed at first. By the time the bodies were discovered, crucial evidence had already faded. The result, a case that grew colder with every passing month. Behind the statistics are real people: mothers, sisters, daughters, families who still wait for justice. For them, the pain has never faded. Because how do you move on knowing the killer of your loved one could still be out there, free and unpunished? Between 2007 and 2009, at least 13 women were confirmed victims. But some believe the real number may be higher. That other murders not linked to the case may also have been his work. If that's true, then the Port Elizabeth serial killer could be responsible for far more deaths than we will ever know. The Port Elizabeth serial killer remains one of South Africa's most disturbing unsolved mysteries. a predator who struck fear into an entire city, then vanished without a trace. So what do you think? Was he a local man hiding in plain sight? A drifter who passed through and disappeared? Or is he still out there walking the same streets, waiting for his story to be forgotten? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to uncover more of South Africa's darkest mysteries and unsolved crimes, subscribe to Unsolved SA, and we'll see you next time.